What's up, and welcome to another episode of People of the Process. So, this weekend I was sick and I was lying on this couch feeling pretty miserable. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm getting worse. I think on Monday I'm gonna have to try and get an appointment with the clinic on campus because it will open back up and hopefully they'll have a spot for me because I just want to know exactly what I have and so I can get some medicine and start feeling better. And my mom, in her sage wisdom, said, "Why wait till Monday? Um, you can drive to, you can drive, or you can have someone, if they're willing to, drive you to a walk-in." And I was like, "Yeah, I could go to a walk-in." Um, so I went to a walk-in, and I was able to go. I found out what I had. I got the medicine, and I was able to start feeling better even sooner. Because otherwise, I probably would have been still Monday morning, sitting miserable on my couch, still feeling way worse than I was because I had medicine already, and hoping that there was a spot with the clinic when our school's small, unreliable clinic was already backed up with a whole bunch of people who were also sick. Um, I think the reminder is that in life, we often try to tough it out as long as possible, um, and just think, I'm just going to stay in this tough spot, um, and till my body feels better or I'm eventually forced to do something drastic about it, or God miraculously heals me. But we forget sometimes that God's already taken a big step, and we just have to take a little step forward to grab what's already in His hand. In this case, it was the fact that modern medicine was available, um, and which is such a blessing that it is. Thank the Lord for Tamiflu. I think that's what it's called. It's got me feeling so much better. But um, but that happens in other aspects too, where we get so worried and so stressed that we forget that we can take a step of faith, or we can take steps of faith, and what God has for us because He's a good God, not because of we're a good man, uh, that He's going to provide. And I wanted to say that really clearly. He's a good God. We're not good men. Because I think that sometimes this can sound like prosperity gospel or works righteousness. But the reminder isn't that God takes care of us because of who we are. It's because of who He is, who we are to Him, not the other way around. I mean, like, He loves us because we're His, not because we did something to make Him love us. And there's a story about the people that He said He called His people first that has been really encouraging to me about this in this season. Um, a while back, I made a post earlier this month teasing a new episode. I was like, new episode coming soon. Going to talk about dependence, manna, and fundraising. And I had a silly little song playing in the background, and I was like, all right, I'm going to knock this out. And I was planning to do it, and I was planning to do it, and I was planning to do it. And I came back to Kentucky, and I was planning to do it, and I started working on it. I had already written up a bunch of ideas and studied the text and kind of had an idea in my brain, but I kept putting off actually doing it. I would get busy, or I'd be like, I don't feel like I got it right, or I need to go fix that. I need to go do this. I need to take care of that person. Well, while I was sick, I was stuck in my room. I took care of all the stuff I need, a lot of the stuff that I needed to do. Um, couldn't take care of anyone else, so I couldn't get distracted. And I was reminded I need to sit down and I need to do this episode. And so we're going to go look at manna from Exodus. And you might think it's a little weird that I'm tying in fundraising, because this doesn't just apply to fundraising. The reason I'm talking about fundraising is because that's what God's been growing me in my season of life. I think we all have areas in our life where we can get stressed about because we feel like, how am I going to provide? How am I going to take care of this? This seems so big. It seems so massive. Um, for me, I'm soon going to be taking a position where I have to fundraise my salary. And there's been moments where I've been really stressed about that. But there's been other moments where I've felt his peace. And one of the big things that has really helped me to cling to his promises and encouragement has been remembering the story of manna. Because if we think about it, I'm going to break down what manna is in a second. But God, when he wants to provide, he can just do it, right? Like for me with fundraising, I could have just had all the money appear in my account immediately when I decided I was going to work there. But he didn't do it that way. And there's a reason, because sometimes he likes to make us take a step of faith because it grows us and it grows the other people involved. He wants an active relationship on both sides. He doesn't want to be a passive God, and he doesn't want to be there to be a passive me and you. And so in this moment, I've just been encouraged through seeing the way that people in my community have been able to encourage me and invest in me and the work that we are going to be doing in making an impact on the north side of Pittsburgh. And I really wanted to thank anyone who's listening who has donated or has been praying. I don't want this to come across as I only made this video so you would donate to me so I would stop stressing, because that's not why I'm making this. And honestly, I am trusting that, yes, there are moments when I'm worried. There are moments when it's hard, but again and again, he has been providing. There was a point the other few days last week where I was a day that was just a little extra hard, where I was worried about housing and fundraising and some other stuff, and I randomly got a text from a friend. It was just like, "Hey, just want to let you know, God put me on your heart. I wanted to just support your ministry." And it was someone I hadn't asked to give. It wasn't someone that I would have expected. We hadn't seen each other since last semester. And so it was one of those things that was like, God takes little moments to encourage you. There's been times where I've been stressed because Donor Elf, the software we use, is like really delayed in telling me when someone's donation will come through. So I'll just be confused because I'll be like, all right, that person told me they're going to give, and they seemed really excited, and then it's been a while and I haven't seen anything, and I start to question the faithfulness that God's going to provide. But then it shows up and I'm like, oh no, they did give 6 days ago. It says that's when the giving was, but the software just refreshed, and for some reason now it's showing up. That's happened way too many times, and so that's been a reminder for me that God's going to provide again and again and again. It might not make sense on our own timing, but enough about me and worries about fundraising, because he's taking care of it. I am close to 80% of the way right now, and I have in faith that we're going to continue past that. We have about 3 months till I start, and I have to be at 80% start. So I'm doing a really well right now. Um, and God has opened so many doors up until this point that I'm just trusting that when He's been faithful, He will continue to do so. But enough about me yapping about me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make this as long of a segment as it was planning to be. But the thing about manna. So, in chapter 16, the Israelite community, they are in the wilderness and they've started to complain. They are looking at Moses and Aaron, and they're just like, if only we had died in Egypt. We had food there. Uh, we had meat and bread, and life was good. And well, now you just brought us out to the wilderness to die. And they're already forgetting, just like how sometimes I was forgetting, that God has provided for them so many times up until this point. Why wouldn't He do it again? When I was complaining, I was forgetting all of the people and ways that God had worked through them to impact my life up to that point and to bring me to where I am today. And where I am today, I'm complaining. Yeah, so that's where they're at, and they're just like, but God's like, I hear them complaining, and so He says, you know what? I'm gonna drop some quail in at night, and I'm gonna drop some bread in the morning. But this isn't any normal bread, because God's not gonna just give them saltines. You know what I mean? He wasn't gonna give them beggar food. It actually says that the bread He gave them tasted like wafers made with honey. Uh, this was that good tasting stuff. It was some angel food. Um, but the cool thing about it was that this wasn't like any bread they could understand, because they were used to having to gather the grain that had come up from the ground. But in the morning there would be a mist, and when the mist cleared, the manna would be there. But this wasn't like bread that they was already made. Like, this wasn't just like, all right, here's your pastry. Like, it said that they still had to bake it and boil it. They still had to do a work with it, but God provided them the resources, which was so cool because He did this every morning, except for on the Sabbath. He did this every morning, which meant that they didn't have to carry excess grain as they traveled. That this was looking out in their best interest. And also, this bread was dietarily what they needed to sustain them through the desert conditions. Because our God's a good God. He doesn't just give you something, He gives you what you need, what is best for you. Like, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, they were like, what is this? They legitimately didn't know what to make of it when they first saw it. They said, what is it? Because they didn't know what it was. That's legitimately verse 15. Sometimes it's not going to make sense. Sometimes that's what God's provision is going to look like. We're going to be like, why? But oftentimes when we look back at it, we're like, man, you're good. But the thing with that also that we must remember is that the ways He is good, we can't cling to them, because it said that because this was new every morning, when they left out stuff from the day before, it would smell, it would rot, it would get moldy. And I think it's the same way sometimes with our dependence, because we think God has answered in this one way in the past, He's going to answer that way again. And the matter of the fact is, if we only expect God to move in one way, we're going to be disappointed, because we're going to be waiting for him to drop it this right here, this way, this at this time, this how, and we're going to miss stepping into what he actually wants to bless you with. Um, Sometimes it's going to look like with fundraising, sometimes it's going to look like one huge donation, or it might look like at one time, or a couple small monthly donations, or but that they're both blessings, and to be thankful for. Um, Same thing with, I mean, not with fundraising, but it's like sometimes you're worried about you're worried about not having enough money in a different sense, or not having enough food, and man, someone drops a bag of groceries at your door, and then you have enough, then you have food. But if you just expect someone to always drop a bag of groceries at your door, um, when the groceries aren't there, you'll be disappointed. And maybe you had already turned down someone asking you, "Hey, you want me to can I take you out for lunch?" Because you were thinking, I don't really want to hang out with them, and God's gonna drop them groceries. But God having that guy take you to lunch and pay for your lunch was how he wanted to bless you. I don't know. That's just an image that came into my mind. But I love free lunch. But another thing that really sticks out to me from the manna is, other than just don't rely on moldy manna, that it's new each day. It might not make sense, but it's what is it's what is best for you. Um, it had it's not like anything you've seen before, so it has to be God. The other thing that stick out in that it's sweet, like God's blessings are good. Um, like I said, that you still have to do work for it, because they had the bacon boil. It wasn't like it was just directly. Uh, it wasn't like they just weren't hungry for that season. Like that God just took away their appetite and sustained their bodies like they were fasting. It was like still that they had to take a step out to go and grab it, to take it. But also a cool thing about it was that it said that there was exactly what they needed when they went to go grab for it. No, it said that there would be that when they get measured it by quarts, the person who gathered a lot had no surplus, and the person who gathered a little had no shortage. I kind of think of it like on the first day there was probably a frenzy, and some people tried to just grab as much, and there might have been people getting kind of like when I think of like old videos of uh, Black Friday shopping, and some people just kind of get pushed around, so they can't really get what they want to get, so they might leave with like one little thing. Um, the person that kind of got shoved around and left with a smaller amount, it said that they still even had enough. That and the person who came off as greedy didn't end up having excess either. That God, because in God's perfect economy, there isn't greed. Um, God God designed for us to have what we need. God doesn't want it. God knows what we need. Sometimes we might go try and take advantage of his blessings and of his grace. Um, but he's got you, and he knows what you actually need, and he will provide. You can't pull a one over. You can't trick God. Like those people, they were just as surprised when the person who they pushed out of the way had enough as when they did. If that made sense. But yeah, so this wasn't this wasn't something that was taxed or popularity based or socially classed. God provided for all of them, just like you, me, whoever else is watching this. Sometimes it might feel like that one of us is less of a priority to God, or we see that someone else seems to be getting more than us. But the truth is, God is going to take care of you. And it said that the whole entire time that they were in the wilderness season, there was always manna. And that when there was that he was walking through the wilderness. Whenever a season is, there might be a season, you might be comparing your wilderness season to someone's season of abundance, where they don't have to worry about where this is going to come from or whatever what you're worried about. Um, but in their stressful season, he was with them, just like he was with you. And he'll provide for you. And I also just want to encourage you that that there might be seasons. It talks about like the Sabbath when they gathered a double portion beforehand, um, because they couldn't gather on the Sabbath. There might be moments where it feels like you get blessed with a double portion. Um, they had to be smart and steward it so that they had enough for both the day before the Sabbath and the Sabbath when they were making their food. So if God blesses you extra, don't blow through it. Think about how He wants you to steward it, how He wants you to use it, because He has it to provide for a specific time and season. And just remember that everything that we have is not our own. It's ultimately His, and it's a gift from Him. So let's bless Him with what we have. And I pray that this message has blessed you, made sense, and encouraged you. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for this day. Thank you that this episode finally happened. That I pray that I can get more consistent again, and I want to thank you just for the ways that you've blessed me, the way that you always provide. That throughout my life, I can look and see that even in moments when I was stressed, when I was worried, when I was concerned about, am I going to be able to take care of this, to do this, do that, you were there and you took care of it on your strength, Lord. Thank you that I don't have to be Superman, but that I just have to take little steps of faith, that you've already done the big work. And I pray that you can help all of us who may feel uh, fall into the lies sometimes that we have to be Superman, that you can help us to see that and feel that we don't have to be, that that's who you are, that you are the only superhero. And we love you and we praise you in your name. Amen. I pray this episode um, treats you well. And until next time, keep being people of the process.